The 90s was the golden era of flannel shirts and Walkmans, but you know what else it gave us? Some bands that blessed our ears, and other bands that became jokes with guitars. Let's compare the most loved versus the most hated forgotten bands of the 90s. Remember when music in the early 90s felt like a mess of hair metal leftovers and cheesy pop songs? Then Nirvana came in like a thunderstorm. Nirvana made sadness cool. They made being awkward and angry feel normal. I still remember Smells Like Teen Spirit basically being the teen national anthem back in the day. It played in every teen's bedroom. And you know what else they made cool? Flannel shirts. Thanks to Nirvana, it became a fashion statement. And let's not forget how every garage band in America thought that they could be Nirvana. Even their hatred for fame made them lovable. When they got invited to play a song on Top of the Pops in the UK, they totally trolled the show by faking the performance in the most sarcastic way possible, barely playing their instrument and singing in a deep mock opera voice. And of course, when Kurt tragically died in 1994, it was more than just the loss of a musician. It felt like someone had ripped out our heart of the 90s, and he became a legend in our eyes. And on the other end of the spectrum, we had Creed. Every Creed song had the same vibe: overly serious, overly dramatic, and somehow overly sweaty. And let's be honest, at some point you definitely tried to sing one of their songs just to mock it. Maybe you tried to sing "Can You Take Me Higher" in that exaggerated growl. We all did it, and we still do. And while Nirvana is doing things like flipping off MTV cameras or walking out of interviews they didn't like, Creed was suing each other. Literally. In 2002, the fans filed a lawsuit after a Chicago concert where Scott Stapp was allegedly too drunk or high to perform properly. He was reportedly lying on the stage, mumbling, while the rest of the band awkwardly played around him. Imagine paying full price to watch your favorite band, and that's what they do. And then came OK Computer, and suddenly every 16-year-old with a Walkman thought they were deep. It made you feel like you understood life, even if you were just lying on your bedroom floor. Kid A followed no singles, no hooks, and barely any lyrics, yet it hit #1. They made bleeps and bloops sound like soul. They weren't trying to be cool. That was the cool part. Thom Yorke turned his back on the MTV Beach House crowd in '95, refused to play Creep, and somehow earned more respect. And if you ever stared at the ceiling with headphones on wondering about existence, go ahead and like and subscribe. You're already halfway there. Then we have the total opposite in Limp Bizkit. Fred Durst wasn't here to make you think. He was here to yell. When they dropped Nuki, people were confused. Was it about snacks, love, regret? All we knew is that he sounded like your cousin screaming at his Xbox after losing a game of Halo. Limp Bizkit took all the angry energy of the 90s and turned it into loud, sweaty music. They weren't just nu metal, they were bro metal. While Radiohead fans were discovering art, Limp Bizkit fans were breaking stuff. At Woodstock in '99, they played Break Stuff, and all hell broke loose. Fires, torn up stages, and crowd surfing on plywood. Honestly, it looked more like a riot than a concert. And Fred? He told the crowd to go harder. Nice one, Fred. And the drama? Oh yeah, Fred beefed with Slipknot, Eminem, Trent Reznor, and even Christina Aguilera. He even claimed a fling with Britney Spears. After she denied it, Fred responded with a fake apology online, saying, "Sorry for falling in love with someone who didn't love me back." Even their guitarist, Wes Borland, quit twice because he couldn't deal with Fred's ego. When your own bandmate keeps quitting, maybe the problem isn't the haters. Limp Bizkit was basically a can of Monster Energy turned into music. Then we have the Smashing Pumpkins. The Smashing Pumpkins wasn't just a band, they were a vibe. They mixed rock, sadness, beauty, and weirdness all in one big emotional soup. You remember that feeling, right? Windows down, warm wind, no real plans, just flipping through burned CDs trying to find the perfect track. That was their song 1979. It felt like teenage freedom, even if you were listening to it at 25. The Smashing Pumpkins stood out in the 90s because they didn't stick to just one vibe. They could thrash with Bullet and Butterfly Wings, or go soft with Disarm. Billy Corgan was dramatic. I mean, yeah, he compared himself to Jesus once. But fans let it slide because the music hit deep. Then came Nickelback. Technically a late 90s band, but by the 2000s, they were everywhere, and not in a good way. Early tracks like Leader of Men had promise, but once How You Remind Me dropped, it was radio overload. Like it or not, you knew that song. The thing is, Nickelback music wasn't bad in the usual sense. It was just painfully generic. Like, they took every rock cliche and turned it into a song. Bars, women, getting drunk, being misunderstood. Real groundbreaking stuff, Chad. And then there's Photograph. That awkward, look at this photograph line launched thousands of memes. Being a Nickelback fan turned into a secret shame. Even other bands mocked them. Heck, in 2011, a petition to stop Nickelback from performing at a Detroit Lions game got over 50,000 signatures. Imagine being so disliked that people would rather hear silence at halftime. Nickelback became the face of safe corporate rock. Clean enough for radio, boring enough for critics, and Chad Kroeger, he always sounded like he was singing mid-burp, but powered through anyways. But Pearl Jam? Whole different beast. When Jeremy hit, it wasn't just a song, it was a gut punch. That video? Haunting. Eddie Vedder didn't just sing to entertain, he sang like he needed to. You couldn't always tell what he was saying, but somehow it still hit you right in the chest. Their fans were ride or die. Say one bad thing about Eddie and someone in flannel might throw hands. Pearl Jam wasn't afraid to fight the system either. They took on Ticketmaster, canceled shows, and stood their ground. That move? Instant respect. Their songs weren't about parties, they were about pain, politics, war, and the mess of being human. And then there was Hanson. Bop was everywhere, way too cheerful for a decade drowning in regret. 3 blonde kids, squeaky voices, and clothes straight out of JCPenney's catalog. They weren't grunge, they were a sugar rush and a world craving salt. Their lyrics? Nonsense. Even the band admitted later that they didn't even know what it meant. It was just something that sounded fun. And while young fans, especially teen girls, loved them, everyone else was in disgust. Older teens and adults couldn't take them seriously, and DJs begged for mercy. Even though the band was super talented, they got shoved into the cringe pile because of how sugary and overplayed their music was. And their looks didn't help. Hanson did grow up though, and they kept making music quietly. But in the 90s, most people wanted them to go away. Oasis was like the Beatles, that the Beatles constantly argued and showed up a little tipsy. The Gallagher brothers, Noel and Liam, had enough drama to fuel a soap opera, and yet, it worked. Their music had bite and soul. Wonderwall basically became the national anthem for anyone who owned an acoustic guitar in the 90s. If you didn't play it at a party, did you even have a teenage phase? But Oasis wasn't just a band. They were a public feud set to a killer soundtrack. The brothers brawled everywhere. On stage, backstage, in interviews, even at award shows. One time, Liam bailed last minute and Noel had to take over vocals. He told the crowd Liam was drinking again, and the fans still went wild. And that's why people loved them. They were loud, unpredictable, flawed, and very real. Britpop never felt cooler, even if you were nowhere near Manchester. Now Crazy Town? They had one hit, Butterfly. It sounded like a love letter written in Axe body spray. They wanted to be Red Hot Chili Peppers, but landed closer to Limp Bizkit's cringy cousin. And the rest of their music? It's a total mess. Loud yelling, bad rapping, and lyrics that felt like they were written during detention. Their first album, The Gift of Game, tried to jump on the new metal trend, but just ended up being awkward and cringy. Critics tore them apart. Fans only stuck around for Butterfly, but when they dropped that second album, no one cared. Crazy Town wasn't just a one-hit wonder. They were the kind of band that made you wonder how it was ever a hit in the first place. And that's a wrap on our trip through the best and worst of 90s bands. Did we glorify the legends or roast your guilty pleasures a little too hard? Let us know your takes in the comments. And if this video hits you right in the nostalgia, tap that like button and subscribe for more music throwbacks, spicy opinions, and 90s drama you forgot existed.